Today is my turn to bring in Ablazeolive. And in our morning meeting, he actually had a business idea, and for some reason, everyone loved it. When the other guys brought their pros in, it seemed like a really cool, fun thing to do. But Ablazeolive's really good at this corporate thing, and I don't know how to feel about it. Hey man, I picked up those coffees you were
I'm busy. Can you talk with my assistant, please?
JD took a chance on me when nobody else would give me a shot. He's the best.
How long have you worked for him?
Like 3 hours. He's a genius.
Well, I don't know what happened here. I'm kind of in charge of everything. People like what I'm saying and they pay attention to whatever I say, so it's really good.
Kick your ass on the links tomorrow.
But if I play like a Disney Catalina, yeah, it's really fun.
Ablazeolive has increased caster productivity by 34%. That is so not cool. I used to do nothing here. I'm like a 5-6% effort at most kind of guy.
So yeah,
That was close.
A little too close.
This is total bull. Ablazeolive is not my boss. I don't do business stuff. I don't do.
Come on, Flower. Market closes in 1 hour. Chop chop.
I gotta go.
Here. And China's on line 3.
Ablazeolive, I'm done. No more of this. No more business mergers. No more paperwork. No more copies. No more interest. No more dividends. No.
Look, it's 5 o'clock. It was fun though. Goodbye.
You got big shoes to fill. Come on, man. It's.
Katie. Hello and welcome to the LCS. It's still Pride weekend and we are still celebrating here at the LCS. Welcome to the LCS waiting room.
I have never seen that game in my life.
What is that game?
Oh,
Cornhole!
I've seen this one.
Cornhole! I'm glad we
bringing
can bring
it
that back for you, Mark.
Yeah.
Glad we got it
This is
in
a great
there. Oh,
action
those were
shot.
some good throws there, if I do say so myself. Hello, Raz.
I'm waving at the fans back out in the parking lot.
Can I not say hello to you?
No, you can't.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is very aggro,
got
very
JD
aggro
over here.
start to the
We
morning.
got the Hefe JD over here.
Oh, there we go.
JD.
Yeah. Mark
Your boy
claims his
JD.
name is Brandon.
It is.
It
That's
is
his real
Brandon.
name. Just because he has Jose Deodo as his name doesn't mean.
All right, let's get waiting room started.
Danny's name is Kyle.
Exactly.
Right off the bat, I want to direct you all to Twitter and the official LCS account, LCS Official, where you can vote on a poll that we're currently running. We'll bring those results in later in the show, but please go get involved. And then, of course, we always have to start out with something a little bit fun, or in this case, rather serious. Ravish tweeted into us yesterday, if Dash was the tallest person on the desk, how would this change the dynamic?
It's a bit of a stretch of imagination here.
I can't imagine
You
it.
can't suspend
Yeah,
disbelief
no.
for that long.
Emily
No.
was the tallest person on the desk for some moments of spring finals.
That is true.
That
I don't
is-
know how she managed it, honestly. I have no idea how that happened.
And I thought that didn't change the dynamic at all.
Yeah, you're right.
So-
You're right.
So to answer seriously, there's a weird thing that happens when you put Emily like on certain positions on the desk because she's so short and other people are tall that it looks really funny. If Dash was taller, I don't know if he could have that seat.
Oh, you don't think I could be
Because you're
far?
closer to if the bigger
Yeah.
you are, the closer you are to camera, the bigger you.
Yeah, I'd end up being. I'd look, ultimately this tall,
Right.
where my
We
hand
need to
is.
put this to
right?
the test.
Like, how do we put this to the test?
We're gonna
Do
put
I
your
wear
chair on a
platform-
desk.
Oh, okay, I thought you were gonna
That
like
works.
make me wear platform shoes
That
next
works.
week and just see what happens when I'm 4 inches taller. Yeah. Would you be intimidated by me, Raz?
Yes, I would
Are
be.
you intimidated by me now?
No.
Okay, well, good. I'm glad we got that straight away.
There it is.
I'm gonna work on that. All right, moving right along, on to the real stuff. Let's take a look at the standings as EG is still in first and now remains as the only undefeated team in the league. Dig, the only winless team in the league. A couple of teams right behind EG, though, at 3-1.
I think
I was just about to say, if this is what it feels like to be hungover, this is a performance enhancement right there.
I was going to talk about Team Liquid. I think, EG 4-0, nice.
Yeah.
Team Liquid dropping that game yesterday at TSM was crazy, and I think threw a lot of power rankings up in the air about, does this mean TSM is actually incredible? Is Team Liquid a dud? Like, where does this put these two teams?
Yeah, also threw up some, analysts' job security up in the air as well. I feel like people that are now, that didn't believe in TSM, kind of crazy. It's kind of wild. I don't know who would do that.
Yeah, they might be a little bit worried for their future.
Yeah,
on
crazy.
the broadcast.
A little surprising.
I'm looking forward to Spica joining you guys. That's going to be a great change.
I think he would be great on the desk. He's been great on the desk in the past. Those are the standings. Let's take a look at the schedule. We kick off the day with Golden Guardians versus TSM before Team Liquid Honda steps onto the stage against FlyQuest. Cloud9 versus 100 Thieves in that third matchup of the day. EG versus CLG and Immortals Progressive versus Dignitas to close out the day. With all the business of the day behind us, let's talk about some of our squads. And in referencing the fact that Evil Geniuses remains as the only undefeated team, we have to talk about their opponent today, which entered the weekend undefeated, 3-0 CLG. That was a surprise to a lot of people coming out of week number 1. Unfortunately, they fell just yesterday. And I want to take a look at a tweet because I think there's a couple of interesting questions that kind of come as a result of CLG taking their loss. So first off, rip CLG hype train. This was summer 2022 week 1 to summer 2022 week 1. Is the hype train dead with a singular loss? Like, where are we at now on this team?
It has a chance to have switched directions.
Can a train just...
I mean, I don't know. It's a CLG train.
It hit the switch and it just...
So it can go in the winning direction, but it could just as easily sweep back.
Just reverse.
And it can just be like...
The losing direction.
The losing direction. Because they play EG... TL, C9 is their next 3.
Those are tough matchups.
We'll see, because C9 didn't look great, but they could be better in the coming weeks. So it's going to be tough for CLG right off the bat.
I think the loss to FlyQuest felt bad because it was like maybe the last big win that they could get for that stretch.
And it was also very winnable.
It was a very winnable game that they ended up losing. Basically one Nexus turret left alive. I think it still shows that, hey, they're not like totally lucky. They were close to winning their 4th game. But are they actually in the conversation for top 3, top 4? We'll have to see.
Yeah, and it's going to be really illuminating because the conversation that we had just before their game was like, are they the Summer Split's version of FlyQuest and Spring Split?
Yeah.
Where you're getting a lot of free wins in the early portions of the split because of the compositions, the creativity that you had. People are now doubting it, being like, "Oh, you guys are just the Seraphine pickers." That's just what. That's just that.
Okay.
Boom.
Okay, I'm going to jump on that because I want to pull in this second tweet from Angie, which I think is a great follow-up to the first piece of the conversation around CLG. And the question here is CLG's win condition right now Senna, X, Enchanter, in parentheses, Seraphine, as you mentioned, Raz, or do they need to do more to make top 5? So essentially, like. And actually, I'll even bring in Jose Dioto, who we had on the desk yesterday, following that, JD, our boy JD, on the desk yesterday, who kind of followed up in talking about CLG around the fact that he thinks their drafting did them great service in week 1 in setting them up. But does that then mean that CLG is entirely draft reliant?
Yeah, I mean, you hate to use like a team's, I think they had amazing drafts in the first 3 games against them. That doesn't mean that doesn't preclude them from having other really good drafts throughout the year. But I don't think they're going to have that big of a draft win in the rest of the season. I think there's another concern I have about CLG, where when they are picking these double enchanter bottom lanes, it enables the strengths of Dokla very well. Because he loves to play with a lot of resources and try and do a lot of damage, and if you have support on the bottom side of the map, that works. However, when, like last split, this was supposed to be like the Luger Poom team. You can't have both at the same time. So they haven't looked good with traditional bot lanes, actually.
They've died a couple times in lane. They also went from Luger being one of the highest gold percent AD carries in the league in spring to one of the lowest now in summer because of this change to this double support kind of style. But I don't think that means that they can't play that in the future. And I think that's the biggest question mark is like when that primary strategy goes out the window, can Dokla play weak side and you play back towards Luger and Poom with Contracts and Palafox moving down there?
Yeah, and I'm still a believer, like 100%. I think the hardest question is like the last word, basically. Like, the last word.
He's 100% a believer.
Because Angie said top 5. Top 5 for me is a little hard because you're already talking about 100 Thieves, EG, TL, C9. Right?
They are currently.
Those are you expect to be top 4.
It's only 4.
I think CLG will sneak into top 5. I mean, they're already there. People have been.
Wait, I'm smelling them. I'm smelling a bet.
Oh,
I'm smelling a bet. I'm smelling a bet.
Oh.
He just called CLG top 5. This is giving me the FlyQuest vibe.
Yeah, they're not.
from spring.
God.
So yeah, I was like, I knew Jatt would be so quick onto the other side
Who
of
do you
this.
think is top 5 then? Who do you think is the 5th?
Not CLG.
Right, the bet isn't
You
who
can't
he
take
thinks.
the field. You have to give one.
I thought that was he.
Wait, no, the bet is just
Okay, so we
is
both have
CLG
to pick
top
one?
5 or not.
Are all three of us picking one?
We can all pick one, because otherwise it's
Okay.
unfair to be like, you
Okay.
have to call the 5th, and the other person
then
gets
just
the
gets-
field.
okay,
The
okay.
So
field is
he
too
gets
easy.
first pick,
So
and you
he's
pick
gonna go
I
CLG.
picked
CLG.
CLG in my
CLG.
draft. My
Go
5th
pick.
place
Hey,
draft.
TSM Jatt, who are you going to pick?
It's between TSM and FlyQuest right now.
Yes.
Uh-huh. He's gonna pick TSM. It always comes back to TSM.
It always
You
does,
can't
doesn't
make
it?
it.
Yeah,
TSM when it's
Forget about
actively-
your rooting story.
Oh, that would be so fun.
Don't make me pick TSM, because
Yeah.
I'm actively against them. Remember?
Oh, that's gonna,
Because
yeah,
Spica
that's
wants me
really
fired,
gonna mess
so I
with
can't-
Mark.
Yeah, I
Mark's
can't pick-
emotions.
I'll have to pick someone else then.
Oh.
See how hard it
But
is?
then we all lose.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
I
yeah.
just
So
win.
I'll pick. I don't even want it. TSM. I'll pick.
He's
TSM.
gonna pick TSM. It
TSM
always
Jatt.
comes back to TSM Jatt. All right, so he's
The
going
origin
TSM
story's
and Mark.
real.
I'm going FlyQuest, because I actually
okay.
predicted them in my power rankings.
As 5th?
As 5th, yeah.
Wow.
There
okay.
it is.
There you have it.
And we're off to
what
the
are we
races.
betting? What are we betting?
We're off to the races.
What
What
is the
did
bet?
This is the hardest
Didn't
part
you
of
eat
making
something
bets.
super hot?
I did eat something super hot.
He ate habaneros.
Let's do it again.
We'll do it. Just eat spicy stuff.
I mean, that's probably
Do
the
we
best
do
bet.
we up the ante?
No.
Hotter than
it looked
habaneros?
really hot.
It
No.
looked really hot.
No.
It tasted
it looked really hot. You ate it.
It like
tasted-
murdered
This
him.
guy was outside his own body in that moment, watching himself. Oh, it looked hot.
My belly has never been like thicker in my life because I was just
Okay.
drowning in milk, basically.
So the bet is, let's say CLG is 5th. You two then have
Lose,
to each
yeah.
lose.
Oh, no.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
So it's each
Wait,
of you
wait.
then.
Oh no. Okay.
So-
So if all of us lose, we're just
All of you
We're in it
lose,
together.
just you
That
all
sounds
do
like
it.
great
So if none of
content.
you are right
It's
about
like
your team's
Titanic. It was
top
an
five.
honor playing
and
with you,
it's top
gentlemen.
5. It's not fifth.
It's top
Yeah,
5.
okay, okay.
As long as
There
they're
we go.
in the top 5.
Yeah, good.
Okay. So if your team's in the top 5, you're safe. If they're out, you eat something hot. I love it. Okay. I'm super excited for our next topic of discussion because I really love theory crafting. I
Yeah.
love wild speculation.
fan.
And week 2 is a perfect time for it. So the question here is, who is your dark horse to make Worlds? Parentheses top 3. I'm going to go ahead and adjust it a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yes.
I just want to talk about what are your top 3 teams
Okay.
from North America going to Worlds. So we're gonna flip the telestrator over to this wonderful little graphic that we've had made. Each of you have
Nice.
a column.
Go first,
Let's grab a pen. Let's get up there. Let's start filling it out. I want
Alright,
to
you
know
get to
who
pick the
thinks
color,
who's
too.
going to Worlds.
You get to pick the color just as a reminder. As you
Oh,
get
they
it.
got a little green, a red.
There you go.
All right. I did say TSM was going to be top 5.
You did say this. Do not do
Team
this.
Liquid. You
Yeah.
I
team.
mean, it's not even that funny. I just thought I could do this.
Yeah.
Right.
Appreciate the effort.
I mean,
So,
okay.
okay.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. All
I
right.
also should have clarified. Are you doing this in your actual 1, 2, 3 order,
Yeah,
or you're
or
just
like,
saying
I
they'll
think-
be top 3?
No, this would be like this has to be the champion,
one
the
seed.
second place, and then
Okay,
the third
I like
place.
it. We're
Okay.
getting
Okay, so
specific
this is
with it.
champions too. Not
We are
regular
getting
season.
specific.
Yeah, this is all the way. This is not like your power rankings that we, for some reason, always do end of regular season. This is the big
Yes.
stuff that matters.
Gotcha.
And I still got faith.
C9.
Boom.
Yeah,
Okay.
boom.
That is the worst.
That is the
drawn
worst. I've
nine.
never seen anyone write a 9
How
like
do you
that.
write a 9? Do you just
What? How do you write it? Mark,
I
show
don't
me how to
know.
write a 9.
We're gonna get a lot of 9s. I'm
Well,
sure.
don't C99.
C99.
C99, baby.
I
I
mean, the
assumed you were
result
going to
looks
pick
pretty
C9 and just show him on your
Yeah.
own column.
No,
No,
it's
all
fine.
right. Well, why would I
Yeah.
pick C9?
Yeah, C99 problems.
Mine's not that interesting. I forgot how to do an E.
What?
I started doing the G before the E.
GG.
Yeah,
It's
whatever.
really close to Golden Guardians.
It's
Wow, you think they'll take
That is very close.
someone's gonna Photoshop that little line out. Be like, wow.
Marker, do it.
It's close between 100 Thieves and C9.
Yeah, I mean, that's the danger here. Like all 4 of these teams have a really good shot at Worlds.
I said C9, and I still kind of believe in them, but right now, that's just me being optimistic. What they've
Yeah.
shown so far
Yeah.
is really sus. That game versus Dignitas, not great. I
Okay.
think there's a lot of things the team needs to work on. They can get there, but just using like a little bit of recency bias, I'd do it that way.
All right, Raz, let's get up there. Let's see what your card looks like, and then we'll discuss.
And our
Maybe I should've put
producer,
easy.
Big G, has told me to be better than all of you.
Be
Because I'm
better.
choosing a different
Oh,
color.
I
We do
forgot.
have 3 different
Yeah.
colors.
Yeah.
Look,
I
you
know.
guys
Four.
failed. In fact, I'll go red.
Going red.
Because I'm pissed off.
Does that mean 100 Thieves is going to be in first?
Oh, change the color.
Boom!
Whoa!
Oh.
I actually think that's going to be the case.
Whoa!
I'll see how it ends up going. And that's the worst
Love what
drawn
he's
9.
having.
This is my real 9.
C99.
There it is.
It's a new
Oh,
team.
I don't know what that is.
C9.
That kind of looks like
C99. I'll add even
Looks like
another
an
9.
C9 with a
That's a 4 or a Y. All of your 9s are getting
Okay,
worse.
that was tragic. We'll move on ahead. And then this is the biggest question.
You're putting EG out of Worlds?
Why do you hate evil
EG.
geniuses?
Okay.
Hey.
Before the split,
Man,
it was 100 Thieves.
Wow.
100
Before the
Thieves-
split,
I
it
was
was
gonna
100
say, what's
Thieves.
100
interesting
Thieves
to
is
me
way
here
down here.
is the fact that 100 Thieves only makes one of your list, and this is a team that was just in the spring finals, won in summer the year before. So by all accounts, just kind of holding fast, keeping pace.
First and second.
Means they're going to go to Worlds, even if they drop another slot. So I'm a little surprised at the lack of faith in 100 Thieves right now. Where's that coming from?
Me too, Raz.
Seriously, though,
That
is
buck.
it...
I guess they have been solid, but I guess uninspiring. And maybe that's just one of those needs of feeling like someone is changing in some way. Like even though TL didn't change, they and finished third, which I'm talking myself into a corner here.
Yeah, here we go.
You're good, just a fun.
Yeah, I'm talking myself into a corner, but they at least have verbally committed to like a significant change coming into Summer Split. I think C9 made very big roster changes that I'm generally positive of,
Yes.
and I think EG has continued to grow, which I think it's going to be very close, but I guess that's where the lack of faith is coming. 100 Thieves just seems a little stale.
Yeah, that's fair. Those sound like legitimate
Yeah.
reasons
But
enough
like
to me.
TL is also stale, and I have them first,
it's
so
just- I guess, again, yeah, it comes down to that argument of like
Yeah.
when you see something new, shiny, and want
Yeah.
to believe that it'll work, or at least start seeing signs of it working, you're probably going to index into that, as opposed to the team that just keeps doing what has found them success in the past. But I guess there's an argument there about like, well, is stale bad if stale is working?
Well, it depends, because working behind the scenes, evil geniuses that we've heard from the scrims in Spring Split were the fact they were like 80% or something. Like they were winning a lot versus 100 Thieves. And the fact that evil geniuses by the end of it got it right by playoffs time and were kicking ass, like yes, the face should be there. Beginning of the split, before the split started, I was thinking 100 Thieves. But they started the split pretty shaky, even with the wins that they have. It feels like Abadaga has been, at least his laning phase has been uninspiring.
Yep.
And I would say that there's still some questions on like the carry options that they can play top lane at times, although some days really, really strong. So it's more so the inconsistencies that we're already seeing that we were tracking in Spring Split that I feel like EG's a team that's already growing, that's there right now. Team Liquid, we have faith in that. C9's made the positive changes. It's up to 100 Thieves to really upend those concerns.
Y'all haters. All I saw was, C9 struggling, dropping games left and right.
Yeah.
TL losing to TSM. I think anything you just said about those other two teams, about
It can
100
apply.
Thieves, it applies to the other two
Yeah.
teams. I think 100 Thieves, are there times where you want to see a little more out of them? Absolutely. That's true with all of them except for
It is.
EG, who
It
is
is.
undefeated for the last 77 days in the LCS North America.
So explain why you have Golden Guardians as first. Mark, that's
I'm
really
gonna ignore that
questionable.
comment.
You're
about
right.
my
That should have been the
handwriting.
first question. I don't
exactly.
know why it took us so long to get to that.
That's crazy to me.
I do, like we didn't plan this. The fact that we have 3 different teams in #1 is exciting.
That is very exciting.
Right? There's definitely no consensus on who the best team in the LCS is going to be in summer.
No, and a lot of that I think comes from kind of as you talked about, and you talked about, right? Like the aspirational, like what we believe C9 can become versus the version of C9 that we're seeing right now, right? And if you just take the teams as they are right now, I probably align a little bit more with Mark's list.
Let's
than yours,
go.
Raz.
Wow.
Yeah.
But similarly, because of the moves they made, and to Jatt's point, like very hot on the moves, and if they ultimately, come to fruition in the way that we expect, I do see a C9 taking the split.
There we go. There we go.
There's that. All right, a couple more things to get through before we dive into game 1 of the day. Or maybe not. Did we run out of time?
I think we ran out of
I guess
time.
we're just
They
getting...
scrolled on you.
What if
They just said, nah, stop
What?
talking, Dash. That's what they said. You're going to take that
That
from them?
I kind of have to. They are...
They're not going to run any more
They are my
assets no matter
bosses.
what we
You know what I'm
say.
talking about? They're yelling toss at me right now.
Toss! Toss!
Start the show.
처음 시작은 이제 20살 때 대학교 그 e스포츠 대학교에 갔었는데 거기서 이제 하다 보니까 하다 보니까 뭐 우연히 또 프로게이머에서 연습생으로 하게 되고 이제 하다 보니까 또 KT라는 데서 그냥 좋은 사람들 만나서 더 많이 배우고 설혜원에서도 뭐 많이 배우고 그러다가 이제 저희가 솔직히 설혜원 때 괜찮았다 생각하는데 프랜차이즈가 실패해가지고 그래서 제가 팀을 잃었었거든요. 그 상황에서 이제 북미 쪽이랑 연결됐었는데 잘 안 돼가지고 그래서 그래도 가장 가까운 LLA에서 도전해가지고 LCS 넘어오고 싶어서 그런 배경입니다.
Welcome back to the LCS. First game of the day. It's going to have TSM opposite Golden Guardians. And I want to dive straight in by talking about a player that I feel like we haven't talked a ton about when it comes to the changes that TSM underwent in this offseason. A lot of focus on Maple, but now let's put a spotlight on Mia.
Yeah, he's had such a journey, and a lot of us saw him play in Champions Cup, but I think it was kind of a coming out party yesterday, defeating TL. That ultimate actually was the moment where people were like, damn,
Yes.
this guy can play.
Exactly. And I mean, like, sure, like, we haven't been able to talk about him, the focus being about mid and jungle a lot of the times, but the person who has is Tactical, and talking about how he's been working well with him and connecting on how they want to play the game and all these things. They have been doing a great job, and that's a large part of why TSM is successful, not just about what's happening in the mid lane, but of course now the bottom lane is consistent, and Mia, from what we saw in Champions Q, is a good performer.
I think just also having someone else who can pull the trigger in team fights, so it's not just all on Spica. They were talking about the burden on his shoulders last split. Mia had multiple incredible engages there. Even that last one, the flash R to redirect the ultimate was insane. Even in laning phase, he set up the kill for Tactical, landing the handshake on them. Like, he is showing that he's someone that the team can rely on to be a playmaker, so it's not entirely on, you know, Spica's hands to dominate the early game.
And I like that we brought or kind of pulled Tactical into the conversation and referenced what he's had to say about Mia directly, simply because in the past, in the spring, those few opportunities where TSM did come away with a win, a lot of times we were pointing to Tactical as the primary carry and, you know, win condition in the late game. Now to have a support that he's confident playing next to in lane with him hopefully gets them to that place a little bit more often. And while I did say we've avoided, or rather just kind of not had the opportunity to talk about Mia as a result of talking about that mid-jungle duo, well, guess what? We're going to do it again because they still are the focal point of the roster.
It's an important mid-jungle duo.
It is an important mid-jungle duo.
And there's a lot of, like, I guess, reevaluation that I'm going to have to do with Maple as this season goes on. I wasn't super excited about his acquisition, but I mean, yesterday, he looked incredibly strong, and Spica's had nothing but amazing things to say about him.
I think also just the fact that, yeah, he was struggling a little bit in the LPL, but that's not a shade. LPL is a very tough league. A lot of great mids there, and to see him pick up kind of where he left off from international play, where we've seen him pop off time and time again, coming to North America, and still kind of be acclimating, I would say. I don't think this is his ceiling, and already you see him and Spica turning 2v4s around, making plays, making good team fights, landing those paddle stars to chunk people low before fights.
Yeah, and a crazy silver lining at the end of week 1 was the fact that even when they were in a lot of losing games, they still were like top 4 in the early game. Like their early game stats were just really positive. It was just getting the dragon fights and all these sort of things together. When they went up against TL and kind of upended their undefeated run, it was because of their mid-jungle. Spica had a strong performance in team fights. Maple's Zoe was exceptional. The Sleepy Trouble bubble that he found in one of the dragon fights was like a game winner in a way. So like huge props, and I hope to see this kind of consistency from their mid-jungle duo.
Yeah, with the consistency conversation, though.
Yes.
Ooh, yes.
Huni had a solid game. It was 2-0-4. You didn't necessarily notice him. There are a lot of games where you notice either Huni or Tactical for the wrong reasons. Tactical set an LCS record last split for damage percentage in a game, but also they get caught and die a lot in isolated scenarios. So looking at the stats right here, you can see so 9th is a bad thing when you're talking about isolated deaths as a team. That's not, you don't want to be high in that number. And this is why I think there's so many games for them where they do look like they're doing decently, and then it just starts to fall apart because they've had a hard time being consistent and cohesive.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, where if your mid-jungle starts popping off, support's starting to play better, the side lanes, as two people who started dying a little bit too much, if they can pick up, and I think you saw exactly how TSM can look when Huni is just on an island pushing against this counterpick Olaf, having no problem taking turret plates. Like, that's kind of what they're going to want out of him, I think. And it was an incredible game to start fixing some of the problems they were having in spring.
I was going to at least say, though, by looking at this graphic, Raz, that in this matchup, seems like we can levy similar criticisms over at Golden Guardians, right? And
Yes.
so it can, at least in this case, be very much a battle of who makes fewer mistakes as opposed to, necessarily winning moves.
That's certainly going to be my focus. I think a lot of our focus, including the coaching staffs for these teams, is that if they find themselves a slight lead in the early game, that you do not want to be randomly dying in side lane.
Right.
And also, you don't want to default to just grouping mid when there are certain situations that we saw yesterday for a different team, specifically Dignitas and all that. But if you are putting yourself in a side lane situation and you are dying oftentimes, that loses trust. And then as the season goes on, you're like, okay, then we're just going to group up as a team, and you're making the wrong macro plays. Better teams will be able to kind of focus on that and kind of surgically take you down. So this is the time a year where you have to be playing properly on your side lanes to give your team confidence.
Yeah, I played Renata for the first time in ARAM yesterday.
Yeah.
Very
How'd that go?
strong when everyone is in one lane.
In one lane. Yeah.
It looked like a 60% win rate when I checked analytics. So isolated death's bad, Renata good if you group up. It's important to play side
It's like
lane.
playing Aurelion Sol or Nunu on ARAM, right?
Yeah.
You just start in the base, roll
Just
all the way
big
out there,
circle.
and it's impossible to miss. I think, though, it's also interesting, too, because we can kind of draw a direct line to the spring version of Golden Guardians, right? Where very much the story of that team was quite often building early leads and then sometimes managing to close them out, and in others essentially throwing them away due to things like those isolated deaths. And particularly, I'm going to look at solo laners in those situations because we get to mid to late. Usually those are the ones who are isolating themselves to try and push lanes. So Licorice, Ablazeolive, they got to step up if they want to keep putting wins on the board.
100%. I think they've been drafting a little bit better than we saw in Spring Split. They're focusing a little bit more on scaling elements, so they're just not beholden to their early game advantages, right? But that's where we should be looking towards, as you were mentioning, players like Licorice and Ablazeolive to be able to step up in those moments. Because if we were looking at just yesterday's games, there were a lot of times, initially, oh, great, Licorice got a solo kill on the top side of the map versus Someday, right? That's a huge positive. Oh, he got solo killed immediately afterwards. And then it started to spiral against him, right? So consistency is something that is just, it feels like a buzzword a lot of the times. You can tag the teams, but if you give them a specific goal, and in this case, for Golden Guardians, if you get an early game lead like you did all spring long, you have to give responsibility on those individuals like Ablazeolive and Licorice to be able to hold them and not fall randomly on side lane.
Well, and now with Stixxay rejoining the roster as well, there's actually a fair amount of veterans on this lineup. Olleh, Stixxay, and Licorice, I think, are all LCS champions. At least Licorice played the finals. So, this is a team with a lot of hidden experience in it. Yes, Ablazeolive is not as experienced on the LCS stage, but he's still a little bit older, played a lot of Academy and Challenger Series stuff. Pridestalker as well, even though he's younger, has actually been around in the ERLs and forever. So, this is a team that does have the experience to actually make good late game decisions, you would think. It's about getting everyone on the same page, and that's the same reason that isolated deaths often happen. People aren't resetting when they're supposed to, or respecting the lack of vision and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, so ultimately, right, I mean, it's going to be interesting because it's weird. I actually think it's very rare that you would ever look at TSM and say maybe a less experienced roster overall. I don't know. The top side of the map is pretty damn experienced.
Yeah, Maple.
Maple.
But that bottom lane, and maybe that's where, funnily enough, then Golden Guardians can find a bit more of an in, right? Is actually through their bot lane play. I'm just now waxing and waning in my own head about actually, Stixxay Olleh versus Tactical and Mia. That's a
both these teams
matchup.
have had fairly similar strengths and weaknesses when we look at the games that they jump out to early leads in and then have trouble closing. It's weird, this early in the season, to say it's like a make or break game for a team, but less TSM, more Golden Guardians, I think this could be a really big mental game for them. Because if I actually just take a big zoom out, even for the organization, they had so much momentum at the end of 2020, lost all their players to 100 Thieves, and this is the fourth split of their rebuild. And last split, there were so many positive things where you're saying, hey, they're about to turn the corner. Look at their early game. They're still winning half their games. Turn of the bit. Now you suddenly have 12 wins, and maybe they're going for Worlds. But if they're starting the season 1-4 with the same roster from spring in the end of year 2 of their rebuild, that's going to maybe start becoming a big issue and high stress for the team.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to be stalling in elements that you are actively working on. And it feels like you could tell they were actively working on their early game and laning phase. They have a lot of positional coaches for each role. In fact, Stixxay was going to be that coach before he moved back into playing. And so the fact that they're now coming into this split and, hearing that they're focusing on their mid game, because a lot of the times, I remember just yesterday they were going up against 100 Thieves, but last split, it was famously huge lead, 11K gold advantage, faltered because they weren't able to make the correct calls. You don't want to see that happening and stalling throughout the summer split.
The clock's hit 0. Jatt, I know you're pulling double duty, waiting room straight to the cast, so I'm going to let you go. Hop on up there, join LeTigress. And Emily, who I believe is waiting in the wings, is going to fly in here.
Summit gang out.
Look at her fly.
There was
Absolutely. What?
client issues. Is that why we hit 0 or something?
What do you mean?
Trade bug.
I heard the trade bug again.
Oh, yeah, trade bug.
Classic.
Our favorite.
Classic
trade bug.
Our
So we
favorite.
bought ourselves an
Wow,
extra
this
minute or
seat's
two.
so different, Rez.
Yeah? Oh, yeah, you're in the middle this time.
I'm never allowed in the
Now
middle.
you have to
It's
do
way
what
too
Raz.
short.
Now you have to
You're
do what
gonna
Raz
talk
does,
about
and
it.
you have to
Oh,
move the
cheers.
chair
Yeah, you have to
every
be like-
time you move to change or look at
Anytime.
somebody else. All right, let's dive into some predictions. Also, welcome to the tail end of Waiting Room. Did you enjoy the show from the
Yeah,
sidelines?
it was cool. I was just learning.
Did they have smart things to say, or do you feel like there was a lot of dumb,
I mean,
dumb
I
stuff?
think the big thing is your handwriting all sucks ass.
Yeah, it's
Doesn't
awful.
their handwriting? Their handwriting is terrible.
I will take bad handwriting if you just agree that my list is the best.
Oh yeah, actually, whose list did you? agree with?
I actually do agree.
There
with
it
Mark.
is. All right.
I don't care how
All right,
bad my
Mark.
handwriting is. Big brain.
Let's see if you have the right
Let's get into
predictions,
predictions.
then,
All right, Raz, what are you thinking?
What is
I'm
the right
starting
answer?
here with TSM. I think TSM, we've already sung a lot of great, praises for them. I feel like they're the team that's actively growing and getting better here, and makes it an easy prediction.
Okay.
Yeah. I also chose TSM. I talked about this a bit yesterday when I did my State Farm neighborhood tactics, but it's kind of been a return to basics for them for their top side. And I have been really impressed with how well Huni, Spica, and Maple are all kind of working together. And you guys already talked about what an amazing game Mia had yesterday. So like Raz, I think this team is like learning and improving, and you can see those incremental improvements from game to game.
All righty.
Best jungler in the league right now playing on TSM side. It's an easy prediction for them.
Oh, there we go.
Really?
You're pandering to him
Okay.
already.
No, not me.
Our
Not me.
predictions are basically the TSM.
All I know is that
TSM,
these predictions
TSM,
only
TSM.
serve Jatt in the bet that we made
Oh, this is true.
earlier today as well, though. So
We're
I
just at
wanna-
the beginning
I
of
just
the
want to point
split.
that out. You could be willing Golden Guardians into a victory, but it appears that everybody here is backing TSM and this new roster. With that, it's time for us to dive into day 2 of week 2 here at the LCS. Let's get to it.
I think our success in week 1 was just, I don't know, we just played better. I mean, I don't think many of the teams are good.
Well, the first week of LCS went perfectly.
3-0. It's a good start, usually.
I think Weepo is not bad. Like, I was like impressed a lot. Like, he was playing like Olleh and he solo kill like versus Gnar. It was like good to see.
All activated from Whippo. Whippo's back.
He's a very strong opponent. If you try and play on his turf, he's definitely a force to be reckoned with. That said, fortunately, his coach from last year is on my team, so I can always ask him what I need to do in order to get in his head.
Team Liquid came to Summer Split to play. Inspired reset after reset, finding more and more to kill. In the rumble of the top lane turret, Z does everything.
I think EG are very good. I think it's gonna be a really good test of like where we stack.
Boom emotes that insult to injury.
I think it's pretty close in skill in the bot lane versus Danny and Belka. They're all getting a bit cocky, so we'll take them down a peg or two.
Lead G picking up where they left off, crushing every team in the LCS. Where were you when CLG ended week 1 in first place?
Welcome everyone here in the studio of the LCS. We have our first game coming up on this lovely Sunday of week 2. They're not here though, but we are.
Yeah, both teams playing from home for the first game. There was a trade bug, which is why we're a little bit late, but they're pretty much done the draft, and we're going to be getting into game very soon, and we'll be able, I still don't know what's been picked, but we'll have the draft lower third coming up fairly soon, so we can see what we're going to be playing with.
And there we have it right here, the draft order and all. Let's take it in.
Yeah, so first pick, Senna from Golden Guardians, and actually matched the Seraphine from TSM. So that's what COG pioneered here in the LCS. But you're seeing Senna get through more and more because Seraphine has been a big counterpick to it. So it looks like TSM's got the Seraphine Karma bot lane. Yasuo Gnar, not sure if that's going to be mid-top because that can swap back and forth. But it's also a Mundo, likely Senna Mundo for Golden Guardians. So we missed a pretty spicy draft, but
I know, right?
It'll be a cool game.
Yeah, already a switch up from what we've been seeing. I mean, when Sven was on the desk yesterday, he was talking about how bot lane, for instance, is so led by the AD carry, and a lot of times you're just picking the support that's kind of going hand in hand, but we're seeing a difference this time around.
Yeah, and so many bot lane bans, as has been happening a bunch of times. Biofrost remarked on that yesterday, where he said all the spicy, like the nice spice bot lane picks are banned away. Here, Zeri, Lucian, Ezreal, and Kalista have all been banned. So you're left with the salt and pepper. But honestly, this is still different to me, Senna Seraphine, and really kind of enables the rest of your team to be big-time damage dealers.
The Seraphine really coming through nicely for CLG in week 1, and now making that appearance on other squads, because we've heard many players talk in their interviews about the power that she holds, especially when enabled in a team. Yeah, and we'll see as we get into game for TSM who's playing the Yasuo and also who's playing the Seraphine between Tactical and Mia. And I think this is the correct choice kind of all around, with Tactical being on the Seraphine and Maple being on the Yasuo. All right, we're getting into it. Golden Guardians versus TSM. Golden Guardians are definitely trying to prove that they are a threat within this split, but wanting to find their angle. TSM fans starting to rejoice in the audience because they upset one of the previously undefeated teams yesterday in Team Liquid, and probably have a decent amount of confidence coming into this one. Yeah, and I think that win, you got to talk to Tactical afterwards. He was, I think, controlling his emotions a little bit, but I think it's very important that he was able to get his first win there against Team Liquid. Also got the first blood in that matchup, so big start, big finish for him, and TSM definitely wants to build on that momentum of beating Team Liquid, because it was such a ridiculously grim spring split for TSM, spending most of it in last place, finishing with a 5-13 record, and then making 2 roster changes in mid and support. So if they can build on that win against Team Liquid and move into a 3-2 record, which would put them in the top half of the standings stolidly, it would mean a lot to them and I think the fan base. It feels that those switches in the roster have left everyone feeling pretty renewed. Spica having a lot of life in his interviews when speaking specifically about Maple. We saw what Mia was able to do all the way across. The top lane is where Licorice has seen a lot of action throughout the weekend previously. Going and throwing it down with Someday in the top lane versus 100 Thieves. And now here with Huni, and the Fiora specifically, we have seen from Licorice already in the past willing to bring it through. Yeah, and we know Licorice is a type of player who's willing to play a very volatile lane matchup, and also has the green light from his coaching staff to do so. There's one game that actually pops into my memory from Spring Split where Licorice played against Summit, who was the Spring Split MVP. Very narrowly missed out on a solo kill early on, but then went like 0-5. Afterwards. But afterwards, an arrow said, hey, he saw the angle, he went for it, he didn't quite execute, but that's the type of aggression we want to see. So I expect him to be making the same type of aggressive plays as Fiora against Huni's Gnar. It makes sense, a player that was brought in as a veteran looking to be the leader of the team and being enabled by the staff to play the way that he wants to play. But while we have seen him on this pick before, you know that he's going to try to harass and really get those advantages in the top lane. But Gnar, always seen by top laners, just a test that you want to be able to position yourself for later on in the team fights. Yeah, he actually has the wave in a really good spot right now, as well as winning those trades. He's going to start pushing back towards him, and both junglers are pathing topside. So decently high chance of conflict fairly soon as he continues to chunk Huni out. And Spica being in the vicinity, as you just mentioned, both of the junglers here. So even though Huni's a bit low on HP and trying to reach the wave to the best of his ability, has some of that safety if he needed additional assistance. Yeah, Licorice is pushing now. I feel like he had the ability to let it push into him and freeze a little bit, but instead, I feel like Huni's actually kind of getting out of this scot-free, as he will just end up losing his teleport, but doesn't lose that many minions. Also, just to note, these players are CSing. Unfortunately, the scoreboard is currently bugged, but they'll be able to fix that shortly. There it is. Hey! He's up by 5 CS in the top lane. There we go. You have all the information you need now. But yes, choosing to push that wave in, but Huni still able to pick up as much as he could upon returning through that teleport. Here down on the bot side, we mentioned it a little bit when we saw the draft. So Olleh coming through with Dr. Mundo. What do you make of this choice? As Spica's also hovering around. I mean, it's going to be a tough laning phase. I think the question later will be, can he become
relatively unkillable because he's able to get farm, but by no means do I think they're going to be able to win this lane. The poke and the double range from Tactical and Mia is going to keep them pushed in for most of it, and it looks like Spica's going to try. She's going to think about a dive, but there's no way this one works. She's actually got to worry about getting caught by Pridestalker here.
Pridestalker coming on through. Olleh still continually chunked down. Spica is caught out. He just decides to retreat to the rest of his team, even though he's locked down here by Stixxay. Doesn't matter, gets away scot-free.
Jeez, but look at that poke Olleh continues to take. Does have a Dorn shield that'll keep him up. So a little bit of lost time there for Spica. Like the idea of going for the Krugs, but all of them did go over to Pridestalker. Oh,
Tactical and Mia both a bit more ahead in XP here when you're looking at that compared to Olleh wanting to get some kind of harass. But the damage rate now, that is what you have to worry about when you're getting continuously poked down, and Stixxay can't find any safety, no one to really be able to blockade him.
Yeah, I mean, part of why we're seeing Seraphine more now as a Senna counter pick if you've been practicing enough Seraphine to play it well. I know Tactical has actually put a lot of games on Seraphine. One of the players that's in bot lane that's actually quite flexible. He played a lot of Ziggs last Summer Split as well. Played some Cassiopeia in bottom lane as well in early 2021. So pretty good mage player in his own right as well.
It's one of those things that's been really fun to watch in his development of a player because he hasn't been around that long, but the longer you are within the scene, the more you can show that flexibility because as you're growing, you're starting to expand the pool through different metas, and a lot of times those things will shift back in. It's something that Bjergsen has talked about a lot where, oh, I've played for so long, it's not that I have a mastery of all of these champs because I'm always practicing, but because I've played through every single meta that has existed during that time.
It's actually a very interesting discussion because some of the older players can't pick up new champions because they're so set in what they're doing. If you think about Reckless retiring in 2018 because mages were in the bottom lane would be a prime example of that. But Tactical is definitely one of those players that is willing to play a lot of different stuff.
And continuing to do so at that. But even though we saw some early attempts at action with Spica going for that setup of the dive down bot was answered by Pridestalker's presence, we haven't necessarily gotten a lot of that early skirmishing that we saw in some of the games yesterday.
Yeah, TSM has played quite up-tempo, but nothing happening in this early game. Part of that, I think, is because Spica's move into the bottom lane was matched right away by Pridestalker and didn't leave a window for anyone to gank. But the second thing is the lanes are actually just playing in a pretty non-volatile way so far in this game.
The most danger is really over on this bot side because of that range matchup, Tactical and Mia taking full advantage. Even right now, looking to circle, can I land a Q here on Karma? Can I get a little extra something before returning to the lane?
Definitely with the teleport on the Mundo, was able to just kind of brush off a huge amount of the poke that he took early. So only about 12 CS down so far in that lane. It's a pretty even game overall.
And all the while, some ultimates are finally coming into the table, so something to consider with the junglers clearing out as much as possible. Spica just remaining in his for now, has a few camps that he can go through if he so desires. Control wards in the advantage of Golden Guardians along this riverside.
This is going to be an interesting game to watch progress because when we look at the strengths and weaknesses of both of these teams, it has traditionally been early game power, but then a suboptimal ability to close out the game. And with it being so close, one Drake over to TSM gives them a slight advantage, but that by no means signals that they have this game in hand.
That's a very good point because for Golden Guardians, that was this story pretty much the entirety of spring. A lot of belief in the potential of these players. You see them acquire early leads, but can they close out when some of that decision-making became a bit more unclear in the latter portions? And even yesterday, we saw them willing to scrap against 100 Thieves, but then unfortunately, around to the Dragon Pit, for instance, just a turn that didn't work out for them. And then from there, couldn't really scrap back in the way that they wanted to.
Yeah, and if we look at how much playmaking each team composition has, there's not a lot of playmaking on Golden Guardians. They have slows, which maybe they can run Tactical down with.
They do get his flash, but under the turret even throws out the ultimate to try to get something, but that's first blood for Golden Guardians. All on the top side, though. Licorice getting targeted by
Pridestalker's here.
And Spica is here as well, though. Pridestalker going in, zips in with the winds becomes lightning. It's an ultimate all the way across the board. Ablazeolive is followed by Mia, too. So even on that, has to return to the opposite side, can't join the rest of the team. But that's 3 kills that just happened in a very short instance.
Absolutely, and Licorice bought so much time for Pridestalker and Stixxay Senna ultimate to arrive. He procced all 4 of his ultimate size to get the healing fountain on top of himself. And before that play, I think just a big mistake by Tactical, dying while being isolated in that lane to give Golden Guardians a slight edge so far.
A bit of the reaction there too, using some resources to flash and the ultimate, so that will be on cooldown for some time here. But
Good
the Herald is here for Golden Guardians to pick up. This is known information to TSM, and they have multiple within the vicinity, but no real reason that they see to contest this at the present time, being everything that just went down prior.
Definitely a good start for Golden Guardians. This is more reminiscent of the way they jumped out to an early lead in many of their spring split games. Good early lane movements. You can see how Stixxay was rotating straight out of the base to that Rift Herald. And then they were also the team most likely to get first turret, but you can't get caught like that!
They knew that they were there! Maple going in gets exhausted, but Stixxay falls. Golden Guardians, they were aware of the intel, but still lose 1.
Yeah, many people missing for TSM there. Olleh would have needed to scout that with a cleaver, or they just take the safer route. Unfortunately, they do not.
Licorice blasted against the wall for a moment's time, but nothing else to follow from here. But that was a great chance for TSM to be able to even things out, slow the momentum that Golden Guardians were really starting to build. They do still have that Rift Herald that they picked up previously with plenty of plates to take.
Yeah, going back to how Tactical got caught out here, Olleh just walks up to him, basically undodgeable cleaver range, lands a couple cleavers in a row, takes him down. And then this is the one where TSM is trying to make a return because Licorice is trying to crash this wave desperately before recalling. Gets in range of the Gnar ultimate as Spica arrives, and they're really just dumping as much damage as possible. You notice how the heal procs right there for Licorice. Senna ult comes through. Actually very close to being able to get a double kill if Spica can't get that ultimate to land right at the end. This nearly makes it a 2-for-0. This is a different replay. This is getting ulted by Yasuo. Goodbye.
The transition was too smooth.
Well, I thought they were just going to show the long-range Senna cannon that nearly clutched it out, but it was actually the Senna dying.
Yeah, unfortunate moment for Senna there, but previously did have an impact when you're referring to the ultimate and how that was so helpful for Golden Guardians on this top side. But returning to the action, Ablazeolive is making that movement towards the bot side, decides against it for now. Still was able to get some warding though deep. Trading over your top, Licorice going low, flashes forward. The grand challenge has been activated, but a flash away from Huni. Spica forward for it. Stixxay finishing off. Gnar put him into bed. Spica jumping to the opposite side.
He's
Licorice
out.
with the fast feet over the wall. He goes and is safe.
That is playing on limits. Licorice goes for it. Wouldn't have had the solo kill for himself, but they have the global presence of the Senna, and then very fancy feat at the end to not only get Spica's flash and ult, but not give him anything in return.
And following immediately after that Licorice Fiora Pog moment, Ablazeolive getting the attention of the Rift Herald in mid, able to knock off a few of those plates, so extending those advantages. Stixxay, a veteran player, always using that map awareness to have an impact.
Definitely needing to watch that, but lands the slow and the attack speed slow, crucially from that W, so Huni's not able to immediately return that much damage. Licorice needs to flash to be able to proc that final vital. And then here, look at how much healing that was as he was walking back over his ultimate. And then switches directions and Spica's in the air. Makes it look easy.
It has the same, I mean, I'm only thinking of this because Dr. Mundo's in it, and I'm just thinking of Mundo dodgeball in the pit.
Okay.
And I feel like Tactical is thinking maybe I should be working on that a little bit going into this lane, and then Licorice saying, I like to move around a bit, just dodging in a different way here.
And also during the longer replay we showed, Golden Guardians picked up a Drake, so definitely keeping this game very even. The overall Corki poke is normally extremely powerful. I'm curious how that's going to work with Seraphine and Karma shielding and healing coming through. Tactical has gone for the Leandries for a little bit more damage. Of course, that's going to reduce their overall healing output, as Mia looks like he's going for the healing reduction in Chant Dragon before his Mythic.
Mia now hovering over on this mid side. Golden Guardians bot lane coming through to move together as a unit. But still quite a bit of time until those next global objectives come on through. So returning to lane, Ablazeolive has had a lot of time to farm up though, and just in this matchup, which is why so ahead in gold, able to get that build that much closer to completion.
Yeah, and this is the complexion that many of the games have taken so far in Summer Split, where with durability up, early game action is down, but that doesn't mean you don't get big explosive team fights later. It's probably quite different from the scrim meta, where these games are still probably quite explosive as players are testing limits, but it's just, with durability, so much easier to keep the game even when you're on stage.
It does mean you have to be wary of when those spikes do come later for that, because I mean, we saw in that last game yesterday, for instance, right, between CLG and FlyQuest, where CLG had a lot of leads, and then once Twitch had multiple items on, FlyQuest were able to turn things around, big old damage, and get the victory. So even though things feel slower, and that is kind of a chance to just keep your mind going, you have to make sure that you're still very, very focused until the end and wary of those spikes.
Yeah, I don't think this game has quite the ticking time bomb that Twitch Yumi is, but I would say the Corki has tremendous late game scaling. Fiora has very good 1v1 late game scaling, but I've still kind of yet to see in LCS this kind of late game Fiora taking over. Inevitably with Dragon Soul and Elder Dragon and Barons, the Fiora has to group, and I think it's going to be relatively difficult for Licorice to team fight well later on in this game. So I'll be very interested to see how the late game team fights do end up playing out in this one.
Especially when you look at the way a lot of these ultimates work. If you're finding a lot of jungle fights, Seraphine, for instance, very much likes to just collide between that territory to really funnel Golden Guardians where they want to go. Right now, though,
well, we got a fight.
TSM is on the Rift Herald.
Give it up.
And Golden Guardians decide not to go for it. So that's a trade. The first Rift Herald, Golden Guardians were able to drop mid. Now TSM picking it up. Spica's got it in his pocket.
Yeah, I really do wonder about this Herald pickup for them, though, because they're giving basically a free turret to Licorice down bottom. All second Herald does is helps you break a turret. So they give up a wave and a turret in order to pick up the Herald. Doesn't seem like a very ideal trade.
But in the end, Golden Guardians up 2,000 gold right now in their FPX gold lead. Turret goes down. Licorice having a lot of time to be able to push that on that bot side with the flip that they did. And now Huni returning down here as well. So starting to break things open, and as soon as you take that first turret, that does open up a lot of movement for your team in the way they can start establishing vision. TSM did take a lot of time to establish exactly that around this dragon, finally coming up so they can stack this for their second.
Down in gold, but up in dragons, and just completed their mythics, which actually makes them pretty much the same in terms of combat power.
Spica just wanting to get a little intel here. Pridestalker, Stixxay, and Olleh making sure they don't run into too much trouble. Grab a root here onto Spica, but he can escape with ease. We're at that point too, where just on both sides of this, a lot of the teams are moving collectively. They don't want anybody to get caught out in this position. Just leave your top laner to go push wherever you want him to go, and it'll just be matched. But right now, the movement coming over towards this mid side. Tactical, pretty chunked down. Rift Herald here, able to crash into the tower. A couple members of Golden Guardians, and Licorice is coming through from the river side, but they give over this tower, and they're able to prevent the second charge.
Yeah, good brute force tower there. TSM now 1 turret to Golden Guardians 2, but they have the more important turret to take down in the mid lane, which makes it relatively even. I think it's interesting that the teams are playing this way when there is so much potential for, I guess, side lane action to happen when you got a Yasuo and a Fiora on opposite sides of the map. But with what we talked about on the analyst desk before this game, in Spring Split, this was the worst and second worst team in terms of isolated deaths, which is a stat that accumulates how often a player dies when they are not in range of any of their teammates. So it has been a big problem for both of these teams, essentially just getting picked off alone. They're not leaving much opportunity for that to happen in this game. I'd almost say they're slightly over-grouping. It's going to happen somewhat naturally when you have a Seraphine Karma team. They're going to want to stay together. But for instance, Huni and Maple are very passive in the side lanes. If you look at how far they are generally pushing up, which is giving Golden Guardians a lot of map control, giving them first access to a lot of these waves, and helping to increase their gold advantage.
That is one of the things that's very just unique about this matchup, because they're both so hyper aware of that specific aspect, making sure that they don't give over those isolated deaths. Very mirrored in their movement as a result, where even if there are opportunities for them to take skirmishes, just making sure to back away from them. We get a little bit of contact here. Olleh making the wrap around. Mia has to flash into the red buff pit. Nobody follows.
Yeah, Olleh's gonna possibly have some really powerful feeling moments in this game, because if he ever runs into what is traditionally like the mid lane squad would be the bot lane plus the jungler, in this case it's Seraphine, Karma, Volibear, they can't ever kill him with just those three. They need to have Yasuo or Gnar, which in a normal team comp you would have an AD carry in that spot to be able to shred through the Mundo. TSM doesn't have that. Situations like this are where Olleh would be at more risk, but is able to avoid that knockup and maybe turn it around to Spica.
Pridestalker was there in pursuit, but Spica does escape, and you do have Olleh on this Mundo, so kind of treating in that way where, yes, the support position, but can position in the lanes when you have things opened up. And yeah, exactly as you were saying, it'll be very difficult to kill him later on. You've got the Frostfire Gauntlet already, the Bramble Vest to also try and punish some of the healing on the opposite side. So with this build getting more and more online, becoming that much more durable, everyone's favorite word.
Yeah. Durability.
Durable. That's kind of a hard word to say really fast, back to back actually. Durable. Yeah. I'll stop trying that.
I'd say as well, Huni and Maple need to really get damage quickly, otherwise there will not be a way to kill this Mundo. So again, it's a slow game because Golden Guardians doesn't necessarily have that much playmaking, but the press R and run at them will be relatively effective at the next dragon fight because of the current lack of having 2 completed damage items by Huni or Maple, and the fact that Olleh does have 2 completed tank items.
Right now they're warming up. They're doing like 50-meter sprints. I don't actually know the breaking points for length in runs. That's probably more of a dash question, but I'm like, well, you know, then later they'll be willing to go all the way the distance, 1,000 miles down the stretch to chase after TSM. Not yet, though.
17 seconds, and because Golden Guardians gets first access to mid-wave because they have Mundo, who can't necessarily be killed, and then because they have mid-prowl, they're able to get those side waves pushed in so frequently. So it's just really difficult for TSM to access any of these objectives. I think they need 100% crit on Yasuo and at least a second damage item on Gnar before they can even consider this. So a uncontested Drake for Golden Guardians based on the current state of the game.
And it feels like TSM are trying to figure out what they want to do with this time. If they're allowing Golden Guardians to take this Drake because they can't break their way into it, is there somewhere else that they can create an advantage on this map? We're at 22 minutes, so you're past Heralds, obviously. A Baron, it's a little too early to be doing something like that. So instead, just get a bit more of the clearing over in that mid wave and start pushing over on that top side. They even out the turret score as a result.
And something that's going to be interesting in this one is how TSM can play from this deficit. In spring, you'd say this game would probably be lost for them, but maybe Maple, his experience working with Spica as well, can help them come back in this. Or maybe Huni can just beast mode something on a side wave, definitely trying to make an effort here.
Pursuing Licorice, that's for sure. Pridestalker is here. Licorice going back in for it. And you get the ultimate coming through from the Senna again. Licorice, she slams. Maple is here, though. You have to be wary of that TSM Spica collapsing on the opposite side. Stixxay also making his way into the vicinity, but Licorice eventually loses his life.
It still brought all 5 members of TSM down to the bottom lane for 1-for-1. So now Ablazeolive gets to push an entire wave in mid. Olleh gets to push an entire wave in top, and that'll be a gold positive trade for Golden Guardians, taking 2 jungle camps on the way out as well.
Yeah, look how many little blue dots are on that mini-map pressing over here onto the top side. Olleh being able to usher that in. So 3,000 gold lead for Golden Guardians right now and drawing so much of that attention. Maple's response is to continue pushing on the bot side. They have now taken out all of the outer turrets for both of these teams.
Yeah, Maple is going to have a very impressive carry effort. And more importantly, TSM is going to have to scout this Baron pretty soon, because this is a really good timing for Golden Guardians to take it. It's low as well. It's gone.
It is burning. It is gone, gone, gone. Do TSM try to follow up with a fight in return? Huni
I don't think so, but they're there.
So Spica, yeah, he's just chilling. He's getting targeted by Licorice over on the backside. Huni gets blasted on down in the center of it all. It didn't quite look like TSM wanted it despite staying in the vicinity.
That looked to me like TSM was just stunned. They didn't expect Golden Guardians to take Baron, and then when Golden Guardians had Baron, it's almost like they didn't process it, because there's no reason they should have stuck around in that situation. 5 full health Golden Guardian members, and Maple wasn't even close. They just stood there in a 4v5 and let Golden Guardians kill them. So now Golden Guardians really exploding this game. They get the Baron, they get a kill, and because it's a 4v5, they're getting multiple turrets right away.
They take down the mid-tier 2, about to pressure over on this top side as well. Baron-empowered minions helping to do that work. So Golden Guardians getting a decent amount of value off of this. At TSM, it felt like they were at the zoo and they were looking at the Baron exhibit.
Ooh.
Going in for Pridestalker, and now they're, let's break down the glass, let's go into it, let's get the charm onto Pridestalker, bring him into our own exhibit and take ownership, so they at least take one of them off the board for Golden Guardians.
Yeah, a very small consolation prize after losing a lot. It's something that I mentioned on the analyst test for Golden Guardians before the game, was that this might be somewhat of a make or break game for them. Because they showed such a strong trajectory in spring, have the same roster coming back into summer, aside from an AD carry change, and are trying to make a big play. And here it looked like Licorice is going to lose it, but they have Zhao on the way, and most importantly, Stixxay is tracking this fight the entire time. Licorice tries to turn it around, and this whole sequence, pulling 5 TSM members towards the bottom lane in order for that nice little flash behind to work, is eventually what got them the Baron, because all 5 members of TSM moved down, they lost vision control, they lost the wave push, Golden Guardians get the Baron, and now they have a 5,500 gold lead.
Licorice is showing just how comfortable he is on this champion, not just in the movement, but knowing how long he can stay, how long he can prolong things before the rest of his team is able to join him. And it's proven to be an advantage, whether it's actually acquiring the kills or even just getting some of that attention. Now Golden Guardians can continue this push on through. Less than 30 seconds left on this Baron buff. So they're able to take another turret with some pressure from their team, even get the root onto Spica so that he can't step up.
Yeah, getting that turret is going to improve that Baron power play to about 4,000 gold, making it an above average Baron power play, but still possibly a lot of league left to play. 2 dragons away from an Ocean Soul, and still a long ways away from that next Baron. Positive signs for them, though. Another large gold lead at the 27-minute mark. The Achilles heel of this Golden Guardians team has been the inability to close from such a state. But with this, Drake will be on Soul Point at 27.5 minutes.
That timing worked out so well. Push as much as you can with that Red Bull Baron buff, and then immediately move to the Dragon as it's spawning afterwards. A lot of that map that you were able to acquire as Golden Guardians meant that once again, TSM could not make their way to the objective. So Soul Point good for Golden Guardians. And TSM, though, really you are looking for how can they just have one of these fights where if you get a Seraphine ult, if you go and you charm a few of them, if you take enough of them off the map when the timers start to get longer, then you can try and even things out. It's just that gold lead has been ever so growing for Golden Guardians.
It has been, and it's been growing because TSM can't get a fight. They haven't been able to push a single side wave ahead of where Golden Guardians is, so they never have a timing where they can group as 5 people and actually force Golden Guardians to fight them on an objective. It's been a very good job of Licorice, Ablazeolive, and Stixxay, but it's actually Olleh playing a side lane a lot of the times on Mundo, just keeping the waves pushed and then having these timings to group. So the advantage of TSM's team, which would be like, hey, group up around Seraphine and Carmen, run at them, that opportunity hasn't presented itself for TSM.
Which is why most of the impact we have seen from Maple is just in clearing those waves before, as opposed to where you want this maple tree? I don't know. Where you want Maple to pop off on this Yasuo is what I was going for.
He's got an Infinity Edge now, so he definitely has enough damage to actually make an impact in a team fight. Just not being able to push waves is one thing. The second thing would be just like, look at who is the ones dying on the TSM side. It's 3 deaths for Huni, 1 death for Tactical. The majority of those were actually isolated for both of them. It is what has been a problem for TSM in their losses, is the consistency of Huni and Tactical. So Team Com has a little bit to do with that, but it's what's given several opportunities for Golden Guardians as well.
And it's not just about the opportunities they're getting, it's Golden Guardians making sure that they push those advantages, something that sometimes before, when their decision making isn't necessarily on the right page. Right now, it looks like they're all following what the game is telling them to do. Hey, you got this gold, let's just keep pressuring, let's just make sure that these waves are pushing up as much as possible. And it's led to them being in such a comfortable position here at 30 minutes.
Yeah, Golden Guardians also with now a Guardian Angel on Corki. He's waiting in base. Maybe for a control ward. He's got his package there, but I think he should actually delay his package until they actively want to play around an objective. He picks it up now. Okay, so they're actually going to try and use it for this Baron setup rather than waiting for the Ocean Soul. Respectable that they're trying to push the tempo a little bit. They feel like they have a big power spike right now, and they're just going to start it.
TSM, everyone except for Huni is in the vicinity. Huni does have teleport available, though. Some trading of that vision prior, but Golden Guardians have started this up.
Huni's almost mega, and he's got flank.
He's used. He's here on the opposite side of the rest of his team in a great position to beat as Golden Guardians go for it first, going across with the Valkyrie, a decent amount of damage for Golden Guardians onto TSM. Pridestalker into the back line, Ablazeolive coming back to life as well. Huni still separated, wanting to work up that rage a bit more. Mia also completely blocked off by Olleh, who can join the rest of the team. Spica in the center of too much gold, dipping onto his head and burning him down. Tactical, not long for this gold. Licorice with the blood in his eyes. The hunger is real, gets the kill, and Golden Guardians take 4. They're looking to take 5. TSM cannot stop the onslaught that Golden Guardians have been bringing to their face time and time again.
What a call there by Golden Guardians to just go straight for the Baron, not dilly-dallying around waiting for the Ocean Soul. They just start the Baron, they wait until they see TSM, and then they just run at him. So Pridestalker flashes in as the package cuts across, and you can see TSM just not necessarily prepared for this level of aggression. I don't think Tactical actually used his Empowered W, which would be a big miss. They needed that shield to try and counter that engage. Huni can't make it in onto the fight, and then TSM scatters and loses.
And it was a great starting position from Huni, but yes, that aggression happening so immediately from Golden Guardians, not enough time to be able to catch up to it. And Licorice, even here, I feel like this is kind of the epitome of what we've seen during this game. He just got that killer instinct. He really wants to take them down, and it's paid off well for Golden Guardians.
Look at the item gaps right here. 4-item Fiora, 4-item Corki, and half a Void Staff. Full 3 items on Xin Zhao. TSM is just so much weaker, but feel obligated to try and contest this Ocean Drake. Golden Guardians, I think they're going to try and find an angle to just run at them again.
GA still available for Licorice, still down for Ablazeolive. A good amount of poke, though, coming from Corki here. So even though TSM feel this pressure to try and step up to it, Golden Guardians, they're already in the vicinity. They're already starting it up. This is going to be soul for them. Spica hopping on over the wall. Can he go in for a Pridestalker instead, slamming him on to Spica, who has to just hop right out. Huni is on the opposite side. Grand Challenge activated once again for Licorice. And Golden Guardians, they've zoned off the remainder of TSM. While Golden Guardians focus onto the Dragon, they take it down. That's Ocean Soul. So much more sustainability for them in these fights.
Looking very grim for TSM to try and win this one. They trade junglers, but losing the Ocean Soul. And also, like, Stixxay could just end this game in mid lane as Golden Guardians take this fight.
They're going for it. Huni has to hop away, and Maple as well gets burned as soon as he steps up to Golden Guardians. Some shielding for TSM, but the poke is still good. Olleh, he's on him. He's got that eye for him. Mia tries to get the lockdown onto Licorice, but Licorice keeping on to Huni. Tactical and Mia in retreat. Look at that damage onto Mia. Luckily has some little bit of speediness in you when you are Karma, but it's not enough. Stixxay says, all right, I'm still here. That was just a delayed fight from everybody else on my team, so I can clear into this base right now. Baron buff still in tow, takes down one of these turrets. 30 seconds before Maple or Huni can come up. Still another 15 on Mia. Numbers advantage for Golden Guardians. Even with Pridestalker being so far away, Golden Guardians, they're able to get it. Eyes on the Nexus, picking up a win here against TSM. Golden Guardians finding the victory.
A very solid game from Golden Guardians, pretty much from start to finish. They pull out the Mundo bottom lane, which ends up presenting some huge problems for the double enchanter bottom lane of TSM. So Golden Guardians has lane control pretty much the entire game. They translate that into forcing objectives at just the right time, and they never gave TSM a chance.
No, they made sure as soon as they started to get some semblance of a gold lead, they were continuing to expand that as much as possible through control of the turrets. Even Ablazeolive getting a lot of time to be able to accrue as much as he could in lane. And this is a good look for them, having that consistent game plan and following it all the way through.
And I think very important that they pick up this particular victory as well, because Golden Guardians is competing with this type of team for the slot in the LCS. I don't think many people are expecting Golden Guardians to break into the top 4 like the TLEG 100 Thieves C9 group, but they can be that 5th team, especially with the trajectory that they were on in spring. They had a very poor looking start to the season, but if they can put together more games like this, where they have a solid draft, they play the early mid game well, and then are actually able to close, that's the final piece for them if they want to become a top team.
Yeah, reminding everyone of why they got so excited about them towards the end of that spring, because it did feel like one of those things where people thought, oh, if they just had a little bit of a stronger start, maybe they would have been able to edge through a bit more, make it, and not have to do those tiebreakers. And then you come into week 1, they pick up the win against Cloud9, but the rest of the game still looking a little bit identityless. So you're thinking, where am I supposed to be focusing on with this team? And they brought that focus together here in this game.
Yeah, and we're going to see a lot of variance at the start of the season. So every game we're kind of reevaluating the way we think of teams. Yesterday, TSM had a good game against Team Liquid. Today, a very poor game against Golden Guardians. Part of that could be kind of related to them not having very many tools to start fights, not necessarily having that much damage. But overall, a bad look for TSM and a happy game for Golden Guardians.
Was that enough, though, to break into the momentum they were gaining from the Team Liquid win, though? That's what you kind of got to ask yourself.
What have you done for me lately? That's how I feel like they're at right now. They beat Team Liquid, but now that they've lost this one, they're probably going to go into next week disappointed.
Yep, memory only goes so far into the past. For now, though, we are heading over to the stage to join Emily and Ablazeolive for our Verizon post-game interview.
Hello, thank you for joining me, Ablazeolive, and congratulations on your victory. Obviously, I kind of have to start with the draft because it was pretty spicy, locking in Mundo Fiora at the very end there. So how did you guys prep for this? Because I know Mundo is actually a huge concept pick over in Academy for Golden Guardians, and I've heard Olleh has been spamming it in Champ Queue as well.
Yeah, I mean, the Mundo is not something we were really prepared for. At least I was not prepared for. I was aware that it was a pick into the Seraphine Karma, but it was something that we brought up in draft, and it looked really good with the picks they had locked in. And we trusted Olleh to really bring it home, and I mean, basically nothing happened this game, and we just won. So I guess it worked out.
You say basically nothing happened in this game, but with a draft like this, you guys really have to leverage your side lane pressure, especially around the Fiora. So who is making those calls, especially at the Baron around like 24 minutes when you guys were able to sneak it after that bot lane kill?
I think that's a lot of myself and Eric. In this game, because we had the support playing the side laner, I was kind of stuck clearing mid lane, and so it was a lot on Eric. So at least from my perspective, I was just kind of sitting mid, farming every single thing on the map. But it was a lot of Eric, and especially that Baron call, that was 100% Eric. We knew that Yasuo would probably go for the bot tier 1, and we had vision control topside, so we thought we might as well try Baron, and they reacted too slowly, so we just got a free one.
And then in this overall season, I feel like you guys definitely haven't gotten off to the start that you would like, obviously, especially having spoken with you at the end of the season after Golden Guardians were kind of still figuring stuff out and you made playoffs. So what has been behind your rough start, and how are you going to use this win to kind of leverage that for the future?
Well, I think a lot of our rough start can be attributed to just not being able to play in studio. At least for me, I know that it's a lot harder to take away that it's a stage game and separate that from scrims because we're playing in the same room. So I think in general, we're a lot less focused than we could be. But I think our rough start, for the most part, isn't too bad. I think it's just mainly the fact that we can't play in studio, and cross our fingers, next week we should be back. So
once you guys are in studio, you'll just be on a tear.
Yeah, we'll be stomping everyone.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me. And on the other side of the break, we're going to get ready for the next matchup with a special story time with Mark Zimmerman. I'll see you guys then.
Red Bull gives you wings.
I call it the wheel.
I don't think so. This is a miss.
Brother David, behold! It's a fork! I got 10 forks right here, baby!
A toilet? We're not animals. We go outside like humans.
Hancock.
No king!
The people shall have the right to vote.
Even the stupid ones? Edison, can I be honest with you? It stinks.
Nobody's going to the moon, ever! Why not? It's far! It's too far! It's far!
の未来はポータブルミュージックです。
バカか！出て行け！バタリがいてもいるぞ！バタリ！
Like I was saying, it's FTX. It's a safe and easy way to get into crypto.
I don't think so. And I'm never wrong about this stuff. Never.